Much of our reality is experienced through the five senses, the balance being perceived indirectly through the five senses by remembering, creating simulations in the brain, because once the brain has input from the past about what it feels like, the neurons that connect around different smells, around different tastes, in order to record the memory of a sense, the brain has to create a little neuro model of the experience that it's recording so that it can play it back, play the firing sequence back, and in doing so, re-experience the senses that it experienced in the past. And in a different order imagination, to take bits of the past and combine them in new and innovative ways to simulate within the laboratory, within the laboratory of the brain, what it might be like to experience this sensation, this sensation, this sensation. And of course, a lot of sensations are colored by their meaning. And so a certain touch that is meant as a friendly welcome becomes recategorized as a warm affection, whereas if it's not, it becomes a shove or a slap, And so there's a lot of mental emotional overlay. But of the five senses, touch is the densest. You can affect someone with a sound, with a smell, etc., but the strongest impact on an identity comes with touch. And so when we understand that touch is the densest form of communication, it also deserves additional respect. The more impact something has, the more the intelligent person prioritizes that arena. In the same way that if you have $1 million invested in this stock and you have $1 invested in that stock, the $1 million is going to influence you more than the dollar is. And so it is intelligent to pay more attention, perhaps 1,000 times more attention to the stock in which $1 million is invested versus the stock in which $1 is invested. And touch is that stock. So it's highly intelligent to invest more in this arena. Now, touch includes sensuality and sexuality. It includes trauma and violation, including rape. It includes the potential to end life. It includes a possibility of healing. Surgery is within the domain of touch. And so one of the first things to consider in the larger cult is that much of touch is not, much of the positive benefits of touch are not utilized. Good example, I've had most of the touch over the last week or so has been with my dog. A few handshakes, but the rest has been with my dog. And that affects brain chemistry. 7-second hugs, engagement, learning to regulate through the body is all very important. So you have arenas of massage. So let's look at some of the goals. So to understand and teach the role that human touch plays in creating sustainable, healthy relationships in a 10x life, to partner with our deep biological programs to build sustainable trust and empathy at effective levels that allow and facilitate touch, to create the feelings of security, safety, pleasure that add dimension to a 10x life, And a very important goal to avoid traumatizing and re-traumatizing with unwanted touch. But it's not really generally a wanted or unwanted touch. It's a wanted or unwanted protocol. If you learn the art of touch effectively, just about every human being's well-being will go up in certain contexts with touch. So it's about context and it's about the recipe of touch. It can also be very important to, de-link some of the cult meanings about touch. For example, in Western cults, it's very common if you ask to kiss or hug a woman that she may, if she doesn't want to have sex, keep a distance or say, no, I'm good, which is, no, I don't want this to lead to sex, and I don't want to be punished later for sending mixed signals. And so, one of the strategies around integrating more healthy touch is to de-link sex with sensuality. To have a very nice bell curve where a hug can just be a hug, holding hands can just be holding hands, a cuddle can just be a cuddle, sex or masturbation can just be sex or masturbation, that it's a little bit more distinct. And, also to be clear on what the meaning is. The meaning is, I feel a little scared and a little bit exposed, and I want to feel reassured. That's what I want this hug to mean. And particularly when you de-shame and de-link a lot of the uninformed cult messages of what touch means within a given cult, you create a lot more freedom, not only to elevate well-being around touch, but also to take away some of the insanity that is generated by the meanings applied by a given cult. Given the power of an app and the importance of not slowing the community down every time somebody joins or everyone visits, I think it's important that people take responsibility as they accelerate impact through moving from words to touch. For example, you have more impact on someone to take the time to read their profile around touch. For example, I always like a very, very, very slow, very, very present touch. I like it with permission, either a general permission with a certain person or a one-off permission. May I touch you? And then I like a very, very slow and present touch. Well, this instantly amplifies my well-being by 30 or 40%, whether it's male or female, whether it's, sensual or, in the context of a romantic relationship. It elevates pleasure and well-being in a very positive way. We consciously partner as a community to support each member in creating a satisfying touch dimension. You can have pleasurable touch out of the context of romance. You can have pleasurable touch in the context of romance. But regardless of whether or not you want to be in a romantic relationship with someone, creating an abundance of touch, of affection, is a resource that we're still mastering because it has so much impact. We're still mastering that in our in our dynamics with others. However, This is a very important dimension to track because, for example, if someone was standing behind me right now and just gently squeezing my shoulder, and my well-being making this video is going up 40%, and their well-being is going up more than just listening to the video, then you've got a win-win and a 40% possible net profit and well-being that's being left on the table out of an effort to defer to cult norms rather than to pursue the path of intelligence. And so, given all the many different twists and meanings that we're all programmed into around touch, I think an important goal is also to deprogram an individual within the community context, that you can do what it is that you'd like to do with it having the meaning that you and another person agree on. Creating the freedom to create meaning is a powerful liberator. Noting all traumatic experiences involving touch is an important thing to, particularly until trauma is healed, which is, it's still in the domain of uncertainty, because you can go to the very best trauma therapists on the planet today. Bessel van der Kolk is a good candidate for that. And he will tell you straight up, we do not know how to heal certain things. Or this works 60% of the time, this works 20% of the time, and we don't necessarily know for whom this is going to work or that's going to work. And so, respecting the fact that, various people may remain triggerable to trauma, it becomes important to have a map of the types of interactions that bring up that trauma, so that touch is not an unconscious basis of someone who doesn't understand the terrain they're in with a given person, who may therefore unconsciously trigger them. So having a map of understanding what traumatic events are there, what type of people bring it up, and you might even have a little slider bar given in the community, because one of the great values of having fewer people in stable relationships that spend most of their time together is it becomes more and more intelligent and practical to go into the nuances about those relationships. And so one might even have a map where for each community member you see a photo, just to make it easy to input the data, and you put 1 to 10 how much triggerable probability you see there. Because if you get a little bit anxious as soon as you're within 3 feet of a certain community member because they have the same color hair as someone who raped you, for example, and then if you're a little bit anxious, if they get within 3 feet, then you're going to be perhaps 70% anxious if they're holding you. It's important to note these maps of who brings up what types of trauma based on past experiences that are still stored in the body. Contact improvisational dance is a certain type of dance around touch that brings in the ability to wrestle, the ability to move and work through things. It's a medicinal dance, and it's also non-sexual. And so that provides a basis for more touch, because energy discharges and shifts, and state and identity can shift more with touch than simply watching something. And so it's a powerful medicine. A community cuddle area is created for non-sexual cuddling. Small space designed as a cuddling space, anyone open to cuddling or wanting touch can enter the space. And this basically means if you're in this space, you're in the space that is expectant to be asked, how would you like to touch or be touched? May I touch you? How would you like to be touched? And this is also rejection being one of the most difficult aspects around intimacy, getting close to anyone. One of the reasons why a traumatic map might be useful, because if you understand that for a particular person you are a 7 out of 10 risk, then you would also show more deference if they're in the cuddle space to maybe they don't want to cuddle with you, not because there's something wrong with you, but because you bring up a traumatic trigger. And if you understand that and that it's not personal, then you're going to avoid the kind of conflict that would be very probable otherwise. I'm in the cuddle space, so I should cuddle this person who actually makes me feel very anxious, or they'll be offended. And I'm coming into the cuddle space because you want to cuddle, and then you're rejecting me, and I'm the only one here. So you'd like to cuddle just with anyone other than me, and what have I done wrong other than to have the color of hair of your rapist? But I don't know about that, so I'm taking that kind of stuff personally. And so these are the types of things that, again, when you're encountering strangers regularly and periodically, you cannot deal with these areas of intimacy, but you can deal with them when you are dealing with the same people over, a 5-year period. So the protocol around moving from a low or non-existent touch or all touches romantic type cult into this conscious culture is, first of all, every community member attends a touch orientation workshop. And some of this can be virtual, on the abstract level. Certain tutorial videos can be created, and your job is to watch the video and input preferences that are then visible to everyone in the community, so that there's respect with as much efficiency as possible. So a touch orientation workshop as they join the community. Every member reads at least 2 books that brings awareness to touch dimensions, or watches a couple of videos produced by community members. Every community member goes through a trauma clearing protocol they feel is effective prior to deeper touch in the community, because it is a wound to bring in that affects everyone. If, as a male, you are frightened of older women just because you were abused by your mother, and that didn't get worked through, and so you're always projecting that abusive woman on the people around you, they will be impacted by that projection. It'll hurt the community cohesion. So as much as possible, it's a gift to others to clear that out. And in the areas it's not possible or doesn't clear out, it's important to educate and create a tuning. The commitment of any person engaging touch is to respond to the needs and preferences and boundaries in an effective way to the partner. If you're not, say, there's different paradigms out there, and one of them is I do what I want, and however it lands on you, that's your issue. That's not generally a very successful paradigm for close, sustainable relationships. You just try it with 100 people. You You have 100 people that don't care about other people and just do what works for them, and the impact they have on the other is all about them to deal with. And then you have another 100 people who go through a protocol of being interested in what their impact is and interested in responding and attuning in such a way that that impact is possible. And again, you just measure the statistical well-being that emerges out of those two belief systems. It's not that one belief is more true in an objective sense, except it's more right if it delivers higher levels of sustainable well-being. And so that's really the reference point. When you understand that sustainable well-being is the goal, if anyone's having a bad experience, that's everyone's concern. If not, you shouldn't be in a 10X community, which, if you understand that emotions are viral in nature, that human states are viral in nature, that if one person is having a bad experience and nobody responds, pretty soon that bad experience is going to travel virally to another person. And then pretty soon the community is having a worse experience because it was too incompetent to respond effectively to the one person who was having a bad experience. And so this is intensified with touch and an important part of the paradigm.